They say when the guillotine drops, you don't feel the blade, just the silence after. For me, that silence happened in a glass-walled conference room on the 27th floor, surrounded by marketing buzzwords and cold brew dispensers. The moment I realized I no longer belonged in the world I helped build, I didn't flinch. I just took a breath. Let it cut clean. My name is Mark Halpern. I'm 53 years old, and until 3 hours ago, I was the senior brand director at Halcyon & Rowe, a legacy marketing firm known for clean campaigns, discreet luxury, and reputation management so refined it felt like art. I had been with them for 25 years, long enough to see 3 rebrands, 2 economic downturns, and 1 complete shift from billboards to banner ads. Through it all, I adapted. Or at least, I thought I had. The meeting had been scheduled as a vision sync. That should have been my first clue. My calendar used to say things like Q2 brand positioning review or client growth strategy. Now it said vision sync. And worse, it wasn't optional. Allison swept into the room 15 minutes late, all high heels and high gloss. She was the new VP of marketing, just 33, freshly poached from a fashion tech startup where every job title ended in evangelist. She didn't sit, she perched. On the edge of the table, like it was a TED Talk, and we were lucky to be invited. "Let's disrupt ourselves before someone else does," she said, clapping her hands like we were about to break into song. "Legacy is great, but legacy can't be an excuse for laziness. We need digital native energy in this department. We need agility, boldness, culture fluency." I glanced around the table. Most of the team was too junior to know what any of that meant. A few nodded anyway. One scribbled something in a moleskin like she was taking notes at the Sermon on the Mount. Allison turned to the screen behind her and hit play. A podcast clip started to play. Grainy audio. Someone laughing, then a voice, bright and sharp and dripping with smug. "So I walk into this meeting, right? And there's this guy, full-on grandpa energy, talking about brand pillars and consumer trust, like it's still 1999. I'm like, sir, please. The only pillar Gen Z cares about is TikTok. This man actually printed out a slide deck. Printed it. I almost choked on my matcha." Laughter again, more mocking. The voice belonged to someone named Skylar. She had 300,000 TikTok followers, a podcast called Brand or Die Trying, and a LinkedIn bio that read Gen Z marketing maven, vibe curator, chaos enthusiast. Allison beamed. "Everyone, meet our newest team member. Skylar starts Monday. She's going to lead our social relaunch and Gen Z engagement track." I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. My silence was already the loudest thing in the room. After the meeting, Allison asked me to stay back. Just me and her in that glass-walled fishbowl, surrounded by empty chairs and a stack of untouched almond croissants. "Mark," she said, crossing her arms, "you've done amazing things here. Really. But the industry's shifting. Fast. And I think you know that." I nodded. Of course I knew that. But I didn't know what she was really saying. Not yet. I need a team that can think ahead, not just repeat what's worked. You're thoughtful, deliberate, experienced. But, well. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I knew exactly what came next. "You're too rigid for the future," she finally said. And just like that, it was done. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't cruel, just convinced. The way a young executive gets convinced when everything they read tells them that disruption is king and tradition is a disease. "Thank you," I said. "It's been an honor." I didn't pack a box, didn't make a scene. I slid my keycard across the desk, walked to my office, and quietly emailed a resignation that had already written itself in my head. In the elevator, I watched my reflection in the mirrored doors. I didn't look like a man defeated. I looked calm, lighter even. Maybe that was just the adrenaline. Outside, the city felt different, louder somehow, more crowded. Or maybe I was just seeing it for the first time without the filter of obligation. I stood on the curb for a long time before calling a car, just breathing. By the time I got home, the podcast clip had already hit a marketing gossip subreddit. Comments ranged from LOL savage to, wow, this is ageist AF. I closed the tab without reading further. I poured a whiskey, sat down at my desk, and for the first time in 25 years, I had nowhere to be in the morning. They called me Grandpa. That was supposed to be an insult. But grandpas know things, and some of us have been planning our exits longer than they've been alive. It started with a ping on my phone at 6:42 a.m. A text from a former intern named Jasmine. Have you heard Skylar's latest podcast? Wild. I hadn't. I was actually trying not to. I'd uninstalled half my social apps the day I walked out of Halcyon and Row. But curiosity has a way of crawling through the cracks, doesn't it? I pulled up the podcast in my home office, still in a faded t-shirt and slippers. No fanfare, just coffee, quiet, and the woman who had called me Grandpa, now speaking through my laptop speakers, like she was the voice of a generation. The title of the episode, Killing Dinosaurs, Why Corporate Needs a Meteor. Subtle. She opened with one of her signature fake deep mantras. You're not here to respect tradition. You're here to replace it. Then came the story. So I'm in this meeting, right? She said. And this guy, he literally prints out a PDF, like on paper, dead trees, just to show me why trust matters more than engagement. And I'm like, okay, let me fax you my feelings too, Grandpa. She laughed. Her guest laughed. The audience probably laughed too, if you believe the fake reviews she buys. I didn't laugh, but I didn't flinch either. I just listened. It was strange, hearing your own execution replayed as comedy, like watching someone turn your eulogy into stand-up. She went on. Boomers, and yes, I'm including Gen X here, sorry, not sorry, are addicted to process and brand pillars. But vibes, culture, speed, they can't keep up. I mean, bless their hearts. It wasn't just unprofessional. It was surgical. She didn't just mock ideas. She mocked identities. People. Me. I didn't finish the episode. I didn't need to. By noon, it was everywhere. LinkedIn was buzzing. Industry pros, some I hadn't spoken to in years, were posting about ageism in marketing, calling out Skylar's podcast by name. A creative director in Chicago posted a screenshot from the episode with the caption, "So, professionalism is just dead now?" It had 4,000 likes in 2 hours. An old colleague tagged me in a comment. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked down the street to the coffee shop where I used to meet clients back before co-working spaces became code for unpaid labor and unlimited La Croix. David was already there, still wore a wristwatch, still ordered espresso like it was a sacrament. We used to run campaigns together back in the 2000s, when branding was more about craftsmanship than chaos. He looked up and grinned. So, you're famous now. I didn't ask for it, I said. No one ever does, he replied, sliding over a biscotti. Skylar, Jesus. She's what happens when buzzwords learn to speak. We sat for a while, talked about the shift, about how marketing had become theater, fast, loud, shiny, disposable. He told me one of his junior strategists tried to rename their luxury menswear client as Daddy Core. He nearly fired her on the spot. I need someone who still believes in restraint, he said. Who knows that Polish isn't the enemy of authenticity? I've got a client. High-end spirits brand, elegant, minimal. They're launching in Asia. The founder's obsessed with legacy. You'd be perfect. I raised an eyebrow. I'm not cheap. I'm not asking for free, he said. I'm asking for help. 2-month contract, remote, unless you want the corner office back. He wasn't joking, and he wasn't offering out of pity. David knew what I could do. More importantly, he knew what I wouldn't do: chase trends, cut corners, or turn brands into memes. I told him I'd think about it. But the truth was, I'd already said yes the moment he said restraint. On the walk home, I passed a billboard, one of ours from 5 years ago. Matte black, white serif font. Just the client's name and a 3-word promise: legacy, craft, precision. It had held up. It still stopped people on the street. That's the thing they don't teach in disruptor school. Some ideas don't age, they endure. Back in my office, I pulled out my old leather notebook. Yes, paper. And jotted down a few thoughts about the Spirits brand. Tone, audience, history. I hadn't written like that in weeks. It felt good. Like warming up a muscle you forgot was strong. My wife popped her head in around 6. You okay? Yeah, I said. Actually, yeah. Later that night, I checked LinkedIn again. Skylar had posted a non-apology apology, claiming her comments were taken out of context and that she respects all generations. It didn't help. The damage was done. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel outdated. I felt steady. Let them chase the next big thing. I'd rather build something that doesn't blow away in the wind. The ballroom smelled like overbrewed coffee and desperation. It was day 2 of the Horizon Marketing Summit, an annual blend of LinkedIn jargon, recycled panel buzzwords, and a few actual visionaries if you squinted hard enough. I was there not to network or take notes, but to meet a few key investors connected to the client David had handed me. The Spirits brand. Luxrum, a quiet name for a quiet product. No celebrity endorsements, no neon bottles, just heritage distillation and understated design. Exactly my kind of client. Their booth wasn't flashy, just a single black banner with embossed gold lettering and a minimalist bar setup that looked like it belonged in a Bond film, not a convention center. While everyone else was blasting soundtracks and offering QR code scavenger hunts, Luxrum poured 1-ounce tastings and whispered their story. I'd written the script myself. 4 weeks of work distilled into a voiceover that ran on a loop behind a slow-motion video of light hitting glass. People stopped. Not out of curiosity, out of stillness. I watched them from the corner. Young creatives, old execs, international reps. Pause mid-scroll, drawn in not by noise but by silence. By the end of the first day, their brand hashtag had organically made it to the top 15 trending tags. No influencers, no stunts, just resonance. That night, I sat with the Luxrum founder, Eva, in a dim hotel lounge. She was in her 60s, French-Vietnamese, with eyes that studied everything. She ordered neat bourbon and said, "You understood my company better than I do." How? I shrugged. You gave me the truth. I just didn't bury it in emojis. She laughed, long and low. You are not flashy, Mr. Halpern, but you are very sharp. It was the best compliment I'd had in years. The next morning, everything changed. Not for me, for them. Allison and Skylar had a keynote presentation titled Marketing for the Attentionless Future-Proof Brand Hacks. It opened with a clip from Skylar's campaign for Halcyon's flagship athletic brand. It featured an AR filter where users could smash the patriarchy by digitally punching legacy logos, paired with the tagline, "Old brands die hard. Smash yours." No, I'm not kidding. The rest of the campaign leaned into glitch art, Gen Z slang, and TikTok dances. One of the lines, "Flex or get wrecked," was now trending on Twitter, but not in a good way. Memes. Mockery. Someone called it marketing by Mad Lib. And then came the moment. A panelist, a soft-spoken CMO from a legacy retail chain, raised her hand after the presentation and asked, How do you ensure longevity when your strategy is built on slang that's outdated in 6 months? Skylar blinked, then smirked. You don't. You evolve, or get replaced. The room went still. Allison tried to smooth it over. Something about agile brand posture. But it was too late. The tone had curdled. An hour later, I overheard 2 executives in the hallway whispering about one of Halcyon's biggest clients, threatening to pull. Something about brand instability and message confusion. I knew that client. I'd pitched to them years ago. They liked consistency, trust, grown-ups in the room, and now they were being told to smash themselves. Later that evening, Skylar dropped a podcast titled When Innovation Gets Haters. In it, she blamed internal resistance, outdated brand culture, and execs who just don't get it. She even hinted at sabotage from legacy voices. I half expected her to name me outright. She didn't have to. The comments flooded in. This isn't innovation, it's noise. Wow, blaming everyone else? Real professional. Y'all bullied a guy for printing a PDF and then made this? I didn't reply. I didn't repost. I just refreshed the Luxroom tag again. Still climbing. On the final day of the summit, I was asked, impromptu, to sit on a panel about timeless branding in a trend-driven world. I almost declined, but Eva nudged me. Show them how elegance speaks, she said. So I spoke, not about algorithms or trends, but about patience, about restraint, about telling the truth beautifully and letting the silence between words do the heavy lifting. I mentioned Luxroom once, gently. I didn't drop stats or ROI numbers, just a single phrase. Longevity isn't loud, it's earned. When the panel ended, people didn't rush up to me. They drifted. Quiet nods, thoughtful eyes. A few thank yous that didn't feel performative. That night, I walked past Halcyon's booth. It was empty. The screens were dark. A half-torn poster sagged against a chair. I didn't feel triumph. I felt steadiness. Turns out, I didn't need revenge. I just needed a room where substance still meant something. Where being called grandpa meant you'd lived long enough to know when to speak, and when to let the silence speak for you. The message came through David, a casual email, phrased like an afterthought. Hey, Allison from your old place asked if you'd be open to a quick call. Something about legacy client strategy. No pressure, just passing it along. No pressure. Right. I sat with the email for a while, sipped my coffee, read it again. The phrasing was careful, deliberately vague. Legacy client strategy. Not help, not we messed up. Just a soft professional hum of need, disguised as curiosity. Still, I said yes. I wasn't sure why. Curiosity, maybe. Or closure. Maybe just to hear how she'd spin it. We met 2 days later at a hotel restaurant halfway between her new office and my current one. The place had all the hallmarks of modern business decor. Fake marble, quiet lighting, ambient jazz that sounded like it had been algorithmically designed to offend no one. She arrived right on time. No assistant, no PowerPoint, just Allison. Hair perfectly in place, blazer crisp, smile loaded like a gun with the safety on. Mark, she said, as if we'd just bumped into each other at the dry cleaner. It's really good to see you. I nodded. You too. Small talk, then menus. She didn't order food, just a green tea. I got the salad, mostly out of principle. Once the pleasantries wore thin, she leaned in slightly, voice dipped into what I used to call her restructure tone. So, we've been doing some internal evaluation after the summit rollout. She didn't say Skylar's name. She didn't have to. I think, she continued, we underestimated the importance of, her pause was surgical, institutional memory, the way clients perceive continuity, reliability, trust. I gave nothing away. Just let the silence breathe between us. She cleared her throat. Some of our legacy accounts are unsettled, and I thought, maybe, if you had a few hours sometime next week, we could get your take. Informally, of course. Just an outside perspective on recentering brand posture in a changing digital climate. There it was, wrapped in corporate varnish, but plain underneath. They wanted me back, at least in some capacity. She couldn't say the words, not directly, but the tone was all wrong for a casual check-in. I smiled politely. Sure, I could offer a few thoughts. She seemed relieved, like she'd been bracing for me to gloat. I didn't. I never needed to. We talked another 10 minutes. She asked how consulting was treating me. I told her I was working with Luxram. That got her attention. She'd seen the buzz. She masked her reaction well, but not completely. When the check came, I reached for it. She let me. Another quiet tell. We walked out together, parting in front of the valet. You know, she said, some people just age into relevance again. Maybe we were too quick to call things rigid. I gave her a small nod. Maybe. I didn't promise anything. I didn't owe her that. But I did stop by the Halcyon building afterward, just to see. The lobby had been redone, brighter lighting, minimalist art in soft pastels, a new digital receptionist kiosk where the front desk used to be. A real human stood nearby, more greeter than guard. She didn't recognize me, asked if I had an appointment. I said no, just passing through. Everything looked newer, sleeker, but colder too. I stood there for a moment, watching the employees file in and out. So many unfamiliar faces. The place I'd spent half my career had evolved without me. Or maybe just away from me. I didn't feel angry, or even nostalgic, just clear. That night I sat at my desk and drafted 2 emails. The first one, to Allison, was short and respectful. Appreciate the invitation. Unfortunately, my current commitments won't allow me to consult externally at this time. Wishing you and the team the best as you realign. No sarcasm, no digs, just clean lines. The second email went to David. Let's make it official. Happy to come on full-time. If the offer's still standing, I'd like to accept the head of brand integrity position. His reply came 5 minutes later, standing and waiting. Welcome home. Home. I closed my laptop and leaned back, staring at the ceiling, not because I was uncertain, but because I could finally exhale. I hadn't burned a bridge. I'd simply walked across it, and kept walking until it disappeared behind me. And now, I wasn't going back. Not because they didn't deserve a second chance, but because I'd already stepped into my first one, on my terms. The first message came in before I'd even finished my morning coffee. Mark, it's live. Go check the homepage. I opened the browser, still in my sleeves rolled up routine, expecting something functional, clean layout, quiet colors, a reliable press release. But when the page loaded, I sat up straight. Not because I was surprised, but because it landed exactly the way we intended. Understated serif type. A logo that felt carved, not drawn. A looping header video of hands weaving flax thread into linen. No sound, just texture, detail, patience. The campaign had launched, the full rebrand of Whitmere, a 140-year-old textile company that most people had forgotten, but none had ever stopped trusting. 5 weeks ago, they came to us with one ask: make us timeless again. So we stripped away every ounce of trend. No slang, no influencers, just the truth, told beautifully. And today, it paid off. I didn't need to scroll far. The first review came from a respected brand analyst blog, a masterclass in restraint. In a sea of marketing chaos, Whitmere found its voice by lowering it. We'd done it. Not with noise, not with filters or buzzwords, just by listening. My team gathered in the small conference space we jokingly called the no-vibe zone. David walked in with 2 bottles of champagne, one chilled, one warm, because someone always forgets. We toasted casually. No speeches, just quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from nailing something because you cared more about the work than the credit. Around mid-afternoon, our newest hire, Nico, fresh out of grad school and sharp as a scalpel, walked over to my desk holding his phone like it was radioactive. "You've got to see this," he said, grinning. He turned the screen toward me. The headline read, "The Fall of Skylar B. When Branding Becomes a Meme of Itself." It was a long-form blog review, part podcast critique, part industry takedown. It didn't just drag the failed campaign, it used it as a case study in professional immaturity. A full section was devoted to her infamous grandpa marketer comment. The irony, the article wrote, is that the grandpa in question likely understood more about brand equity than the entire campaign team combined. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. Nico studied my face. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just don't bookmark it." "You don't want to repost it?" "No point," I said. "The work speaks louder." He smiled, a little slower this time, like he was learning something. Then he walked back to his desk, shoulders just a bit straighter. By 6, most of the team had trickled out. I stayed behind to finish up a few client follow-ups, but mostly, I just needed the quiet. The office after hours had a hum to it, soft, familiar. No music, no small talk, just the sound of machines cooling down and lights dimming on timers. The kind of peace that comes when there's nothing left to prove. I packed up, slid my laptop into my bag, and stepped out into the early evening. The air was cool in that late spring way, the kind that tells you the day's noise is officially over. I took the long way home, always do. It's funny how a city can feel brand new once you're no longer rushing through it. A few blocks from the office, I passed the corner with the rotating digital billboard. Back in the halcyon days, that spot had been prime real estate. Skylar's campaign had launched there just 2 months ago. Giant letters, all caps, FLEX or get wrecked. Now, blank. Not off, just blank. A quiet gray screen awaiting new orders. I stopped and looked at it for a moment, not out of smugness, not even reflection, just stillness. I could imagine the email chains, the frantic Slack threads. Why isn't it converting? Can we pivot messaging? Let's brainstorm a rebrand. I knew the panic. I'd seen it 100 times. Except this time, I wasn't in it. I was on the outside, watching it pass like a weather system I no longer had to stand in. I whispered to no one in particular. Turns out, the future wasn't rigid. It was rooted. I kept walking. No headlines, no podcasts. Just the quiet click of my shoes on concrete, heading toward a home that didn't ask me to be anything other than steady. I didn't need vindication. I had work that mattered, a team that listened, and clients who remembered why trust still counted. They called me Grandpa. And then they realized Grandpa knew exactly where the foundation was buried.